Welcome to episode 1484 of the Sleeper on the Bus. I'm Justin Mason, joined as always on Sundays by Jason Collette. How you doing, my friend?
Dude, I'm doing great, and I gotta tilt my camera down to show you why. Look at this great new shirt from Kenny. With a batter. I mean, Whataburger, as soon as it put out, I was like, oh God, just take my money. And so it showed up yesterday, so I'm wearing it today. So thank you, RotoWear Kenny. Matches my flag and everything. But yeah, I have this shirt and I love it. And yeah, I'm pretty happy for a Sunday morning, even though the government stole an hour of my sleep time. So I'm dragging. I don't know about you, but I am dragging this morning.
I'm dragging too.
Now waking up thanks to coffee.
Yeah, I'm dragging too. I was up way too late. Last night was labor mixed auction. And even though it was an online auction, it still took 5 hours. And then we lost an hour's sleep. So we'll talk about our labor teams here just briefly. We're not going to do a full breakdown because we have a huge reliever preview that I want to get through today. Huge. Because next week you and I will both be in Tout Wars.
Yes.
So we won't be around next week. There will be no Sunday pod. So this will be the last pod we have for the next 2 weeks. So we're just going to do the entire reliever pool all at once. But first, let's just jump into some news and notes. Not a ton to talk about, but we do have Ray's Corner as always. Yandy Diaz nursing a sore hand. He hasn't played since Tuesday. Any worries?
Some. It's been 5 days, so a little bit worried about it. But we'll see if he can get back in on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. But I'm actually more concerned about the Chandler Simpson news because that hamstring, he's still not right. And at this, we're getting close to the go, no go. Does he open the season on the IL?
Yeah. It is a bit concerning for a guy like Chandler Simpson, who, I think he had an opening day job fairly well kind of positioned, but not completely locked. And now he's been dealing with his hamstring issue. Are you drafting Chandler Simpson anywhere?
I have 0 shares of him this winter. 0.
I've got him one,
avoided that plan.
Yeah, I got one, and it was kind of a, hey, I really need speed, and Simpson's a guy who could actually fix that. But now I'm regretting that, right? And this is exactly why I don't like drafting these guys, because all it takes is one hamstring injury, and now you're in a real pickle, and my barf team is in a real pickle right now.
Yeah, I have actively avoided that build.
Gavin Lux is returning on Tuesday, so not a ton to say there. Hunter Barco is working on 3 new pitches. Talk to me about why you included him on the rundown.
I mean, he's working on changeup, sweeper, and slider, cutter. It just was interesting to see somebody work on 3 new pitches. Obviously, as a guy that piled up a lot of strikeouts in the minors, along with a lot of walks. So it's like I would like to see him work on strike 1 more than 3 new pitches. But when somebody's working on that, obviously the team gave him some homework to work on something. And I thought that was interesting, that changeup, sweeper, and sinker to his pitch mix, according to Kevin Gorman of the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. And he was throwing fastball, splitter, and slider last year when he came up, but wants to add more to his arsenal. He threw 6 changeups on 57 pitches in his outing there today. Obviously, he's getting a little more run because Paul Skeens is not in camp, so they need somebody to start these games. So it's just something to keep in mind. Just with Barco, you look at some of those minor league strikeouts, and the Success Pirates have been able to squeeze out of some of these other guys on the periphery while we all focus on some of the other names. So new pitch is always going to get my attention.
All right. Barco probably not in line for an opening day rotation spot, but maybe
doubt it. Yeah.
First man up when Jose Urquidy, when he realized he's not going to work in the rotation, maybe Barco could be that.
I hope Ito's not listening.
Is Urquidy guy?
Ito's been a long Urquidy.
I knew he's been in the past. I didn't realize he was still. That's when
I'm sure he has him on a roster in some draft and hold. I'm sure he's got a 50th round share. I would say your point about the 40-man is key there, because Barco is on the 40-man roster. And that's big. I mean, I was mentioning this at the Sabre Analytics panel that I was on last week, that, last year, Braxton Ashcraft was extremely attractive to me because I liked what I saw, and he was on the 40-man roster, and Bubba Chandler at that point was not. And so while people were going towards that, I was going over and picking up Braxton Ashcraft shares. So the fact that Barker was on that 40-man roster is an advantage. So I bring it up for you NL only players. And draft and hold preseason is pretty much done. I mean, I finally wrapped up the Rates and Barrels Listener League one earlier this week. Started on February 16th, and it ended 3 days ago. Slowest draft ever.
All right. Next on the docket, we have Rami Gonzalez may need shoulder surgery. It's kind of a bummer. I know he was an early draft favorite of a number of people in the industry. Obviously you're not drafting him now. You're just, you're dropping him in any leagues where you can drop him.
Yeah, if he has to have his surgery, it pretty much washes him for the year. I have him in 2 draft and holds as somebody for that versatility that you had during the draft season, as it's really critical in draft and hold. He was somebody that I had there, and now it's like he's kind of been crowded out of the picture in Boston with some of these acquisitions, and maybe they knew that this was going to be a problem for him, and that's why they acquired Durbin, did what they did. They're talking about using Meyer in multiple places. And so Gonzalez, I would be surprised if he doesn't have surgery at this point. Just a bummer because he was an early target because of some of the under the hood skills that just looked really attractive and get him in the end game. But now his game may be over.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we have Matt Vierling is extremely hot in spring and may push Jahmai Jones out of a job.
Yeah, you and Paul were talking about during the Tigers preview, or maybe outfield. You guys dove into Vierling a little bit when I was listening. I wanted to bring this up because remember in 2016, defense was good. He played multiple places, had 16 home runs, 80 runs scored. Last year was a big wash because of the injury. But this spring, he's on fire. Now, he has an option. Jahmai Jones does not.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the other hill. But this is, if you're trying to overcome that, this is what you need to do. And Vierling's doing everything he can to make get a job. And much like bringing up Barco for the NL only, bringing up Vierling here is an AL only discussion. But I know we have those AL only players that listen to this podcast. So I felt it was appropriate to bring his name up just to point out dude's having a really good spring. If you're looking for an end game outfielder or a reserve outfielder, don't forget about Vierling.
Well, and we have both Vierling and Jahmai Jones on the roster at Roster Resource. So this has Trey Sweeney down and Parker Meadows both.
That's good.
Down.
And that would help because Vierling has that infield, that flexibility. Because while fantasy teams carry 5 outfielders, major league teams don't. Not anymore. There's somebody, if you're that 5th outfielder, you have to be able to play somewhere else. And at least Vierling can do that because he has in the past.
Yeah. And I mean, there are multiple guys on this team that could use a short side platoon. So maybe that is Vierling's opportunity into the lineup, and then you never know what happens once the season gets going.
That's right.
All right. We both have drafted labor in the last week. You had it last weekend. I had it yesterday. So we're not going to do a full breakdown just because we have so much other stuff to talk about. But wanted to check in with you, give people kind of a rundown of your team. I'll give people a rundown of my team, and we can kind of just give overarching thoughts. So go ahead. And what did you end up doing in Labor AL?
Yeah, and so there'll be a link to the piece. It's outside the paywall at RotoWire, so you can read it in full. But I did write up the draft and my overall thoughts on it. It's like, when Andy Andres did what he normally does in Labor and comes out and just spends a ton on hitting, and it kind of skews values early on. So I'm one of those guys that likes to budget hitting, pitching, and I like to do it per roster spot. So I'd like to say, okay, I have $14 a catcher. I want a $12 catcher and a $2 catcher, and I'm spending like $35 on the corner infield and 15 and 5. Like I like doing that type of thing. So I had that kind of budget in there, but I had to wait for that to play out for the most part because those hitting prices were just a lot higher than I had planned. I mean, I had already skewed values to accommodate for what I thought was going to happen, and even that wasn't high enough.
Yeah.
And so I had to work through, and I would say the one coming out of the draft, I like the team overall, but I'm concerned I don't have enough speed, but I know I can either trade for that, find that, fab that during the season, because I ended up making some buys. Some of the buys I regret, like a 14 $14 Kyle Teal, a $22 Luke Keeschel, and a $23 Ceddanne Raffaello. That was all because speed was just about gone. These are the guys that were left on the board that were projected to run, and so I bought them at that point. Otherwise, it was going to be a full-on punt of speed, and I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to make sure I had enough to be around like the middle of the pack, maybe even the bottom, and then try to build from there. So love the pitching staff I was able to put together because I've got Pepio, Gore, Matthews, Leiter, and those four, and I also have Steven Matz. I picked up Jacob Melton, the reserve. So it's like, the difference between our two leagues for listeners in AL, we can't just send guys to the bench. If you bought them, you play them or you cut them unless they're injured, unless they're on the IL or they get demoted to the minors. Otherwise, you buy them, you're playing them. So that bench is a little for like I don't need Jacob Melton to be up right away. Once he does, maybe I have a decision to make. But like, okay, this other guy sucks. I got to figure out what to do. So I'm hoping I have enough speed, but I like the overall balance of the team. And it was fun to be in person and do the auction. Brian Feldman kept us cruising along, and we were done 3.5 hours, I think. Worked out well.
Nice. I love what you did. AL onlys and NL onlys are so difficult because it's, really one or two bad mistakes and, or injuries or something like that. And you can have a really, really rough team. But, Kyle Teal, great as your top catcher. I love Colson Montgomery this year. Josh Young, I think, is underrated.
Josh Young, underrated. That came out, his injury news came out during the auction, like during one of the breaks. It was, so, I did what we all do. We're at breakfast, you sit down, you read the latest, and there was nothing there. And then during the break, I'm thumbing through, and I'm like, well, crap. So that actually led me buying Yoan Moncada at the end because there's my third base. So if Young does need to go to the IL, then I can move Moncada to third base, and now I can find anybody to fill the utility spot. Maybe it's somebody from my bench. Maybe Melton makes the team out of camp because Ben Williamson and Emmanuel Rodriguez are not. So they're going to be in the farm. So either Melton makes the team out of camp or I go find any hitter on free agent wire. And that's the other thing. Labor is a $100 flat budget. There are no zero bids. So if you have to replace a lot of injuries, then you're also carving into your money, and then you're out. And you can't even. I don't believe we can even trade those dollars. But it's just one of these things where it's very tough. You got to be very judicious with your fab and labor because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, the $100 bids are, and with no $0 bids, is very, very difficult. And something that I'm going to have to manage for my team because I did something that hasn't been done in a really long time. I did a Labadini, and this is something I came into the draft with. I've been wanting to do, and I've talked about on this podcast multiple times. And for those who don't know, 30 years ago in 1996, Larry Labadini and AL Tout put together a team with a $9 pitching staff. So the game plan is $1 on every single pitcher, and then try to dominate offense. And then, trade or, stream whatever you can do to try to make up the difference in season. And for me, I knew in this league I had guys like Jeff Zimmerman and Ariel Cohen, both of which who like to play the middle of auctions similar to me, which can be really, really frustrating. And we saw it play out a few times in this auction where they were going after the same guys and bidding each other up because they like to play that middle game. And that's harder to do when you've got multiple people. So I thought this might be the perfect opportunity, especially it being, Labadini's was way more difficult, right? Because he did his in the AL only. I did mine in a 12-team mixed league. So it's a lot easier for me to do. I also actually technically drafted 8 pitchers at $1 because I bought a $49 Ohtani and then I left him in my pitcher spot. There were mistakes made. One, I don't love the software we were using for RT Sports. And I got auto nominated on Jordan Westberg. So I now have a share of Jordan Westberg for $1, which meant I couldn't get a $5 max Muncy later. So that was a little bit frustrating, but I have two elite catchers in William Contreras and Shea Langoliers.
Mhm.
I have an unreal outfield of Aaron Judge, Corbin Carroll, Jaron Duran, Seiya Suzuki, and Brenton Doyle. My offense is absolutely stacked. My pitching, it's a problem. Let's be honest. I spent $8 total on my pitching staff.
Actually, I like the Detmers. I like Jack Leiter. I like Ryan Nelson. And that's where my kind of stops.
So someone in my chat, because I live streamed it yesterday, it became obvious about 2 hours in what I was doing. And so I stopped pretending like I was interested in spending any money on pitching. But someone said, hey, because I threw out I can't remember who it was, like a Matt Boyd or something for $1, knowing I wasn't going to get him. And someone's like, you should start throwing out all the $1 guys that you wouldn't mind having,
Right.
but aren't really targeting, right? I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I'll throw out, because then there'll be more $1 guys for me later. It was not a great idea. It did not work out to effect because I threw out Shane Smith, got him. And I like Shane Smith, I threw out Reed Detmers, got him.
That's not a bad one.
You threw out Clay Holmes, got him. So I then abandoned that strategy. So those were the two kind of big mistakes in the draft. The auto draft being the real big one. But I'm interested to see how it works. Like this is a league that obviously it's labor, so there's no prize for second. And it was kind of a fun thing to do, and it just happened to coincide with the 30-year anniversary of when Larry pulled this off in AL tout, and he finished fourth. If I finish fourth, I'll take that as a win. But I'd love to try to see if I can actually win the league this way, and it kind of do something that really hasn't been done in 30 years. So.
And for those of you that want to know more about auction strategies, go look at Justin's latest article on Fantasy Pros.
Yes, where I literally
Google search and bam, there it is.
Yeah, I mean, I literally wrote an article on Stars and Scrubs and included the Labadini as a part of that discussion. Someone even in the chat yesterday was like, "Oh, it's amazing! Yesterday you published this article at Fantasy Pros." It just happened to coincide. I knew I was going to do this. I told Paul and Joe on the last episode that we did. We apologize for not being able to record on Friday. Paul was not feeling well, but we will try to make sure we have as many episodes next week as possible. Though that'll mostly be on Paul and Joe because I'll be in New York as of Wednesday. So, all right,
but neither of them are going to be able to make it.
Neither of them are in a tout auction.
Oh, I didn't realize Paul wasn't.
Yeah, Paul does the tout mixed draft, and right. Joe does the sold draft.
Gotcha.
So, all right, let's keep it moving along, and we'll go to our RP preview. This year, relief pitchers are their closers are probably the hardest thing to kind of figure out in fantasy, right? The pool is always a little mixed up. This year, it feels really, really difficult to manage if you're not willing to spend the high price. So when we start with the high price guys, we got tier 1, and we're going by the tiers on Fangraphs. So if people are wondering why we're going in the order we are, that is why. So starting with tier 1, we have Mason Miller, Edwin Diaz, Johan Duran, Andres Munoz, Cade Smith, Devin Williams, Aroldis Chapman, and David Bednar are tier 1. Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite or a target or a strategy, or are you even dipping into this pool or kind of waiting till later?
So I do have both, and so I shared a sheet. So we'll put this in the notes as well. But when Justin pulls up that sheet on screen for those watching, it'll be pretty obvious who my favorite is. It's Devin Williams. So I'm all about the rebound train. So this is how I have drafted this winter. with things. But I have had a plan, and I did this in AL Labor. I want one capital C closer, and then the rest I was specking on. And so in AL Labor, that happened to be Roldis Chapman. Now that wasn't target. He was the first one that came up. I had in my list of opportunities, I had Chapman listed, I had Bednar listed, I had Munoz. I wanted somebody from this tier, but I wasn't spending more than $24. That's where I had budgeted for that particular plan. And so Chapman came out, but I got Chapman for 22. But this is how I have attacked this. You know, and it's not because I don't want Mason Miller. It's not because I don't want Johan Duran. It's just how I've been doing things. They haven't made it to me. But Williams has been sitting there. In fact, I did a mock draft with Howard Bender had put something on mock draft army, and I got Devin Williams all the way down in the 10th round. And as we were doing, it's a mock, but I like drafting it. You know, I'm drafting it like I'm playing this one out. I got Devin Williams around 10 in a 12-team mixed draft. So I have been picking up Devin Williams just about everywhere. I took him in the 15-team OBP league this past Sunday. I took him in Raz Slam. So, yeah, I'm all about Devin Williams this year.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't landed on Devin Williams yet, but that's usually because I'm prioritizing getting one of the top 6. And for me, the top 6 are Mason Miller, Edwin Diaz, Johan Duran, Andres Munoz, Cade Smith. So I guess top 5 then. I feel like there's somebody missing. Is there somebody missing in this?
Maybe.
In this tier.
I just copied and pasted what you sent me.
Yeah, now I'm feeling like there's somebody missing out of
somebody
this group.
Screaming at it.
Right, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go. I did this list late last night while we were talking, right before. No, that's the tier list. So unless
nope,
Jordan,
that is the tier list. I mean, somebody else might be down in tier 2, but I mean, it depends. Honestly, it's where you view Ryan Helsley, because Ryan Helsley, I know in a lot of discussions, he's listed as tier 2 here on the sheet, and he'll be in the next group. But it depends how you view Ryan Helsley. To me, Ryan Helsley has been the line of demarcation. So if I don't if I'm looking for a capital C closer, and then even Craig Albernaz has said they only want to use Helsley in 9th inning situations. He had a note earlier this week. So like he's the last guy. If I don't get him, if I don't like the price, or he's going too early in the snake draft, then I'm just like throwing away my closer plan, and I'm just going to go straight spec and just take 3 guys out there because right now there's still a lot of volatility in the market. I mean, I was looking at your board and just looking at the athletic situation. No athletics reliever was taken, and is he has a 12-team, but even with the bench, no athletics reliever was taken. Somebody's getting saves there. So I don't even think of the national situation. I don't even think Clayton Beater. So we have closer roles that are unsettled, and people still haven't drafted those guys, but they're going to be dropping fab on them once those jobs get taken. So I would rather, there's still opportunity for profit now, and I'm hoping that still holds this weekend while we're in New York together as well in our respective auctions. But that's about it. After this coming weekend, things are going to start getting settled, and then we'll know who's going to be there. You're going to see guys whose ADP is lower as we get into tier 3 and tier 4. That's going to jump because they're going to have jobs.
Yeah. I mean, for me, if I was doing tier list, I would have the top 5 in this tier as their own tier. And then I'd have a second tier that includes Williams, Aroldis Chapman, Bednar, Helsley, probably Jeff Hoffman, maybe Palencia. And then I would put the other guys in, a separate third tier with maybe some guys who are in.
So to flip this the other way, you asked me if I had a favorite, and you've kind of mentioned your strategy. Who was the guy? Who's your favorite here, and who's the one guy? So pick a guy that you love this year, and pick a guy out of this group, just this tier, that you're like, eh. And it's pretty. I have 2 guys I've already mentioned that I have 0 shares of, but some of this I've been drafting since late October, so I pretty much something. But who's one guy that you're like, I don't want that guy this year?
Okay, so the guy that I've been landing on the most this year so far is Johan Duran. I think you get him a little bit cheaper than kind of the top 3. And so he ends up on my team a lot. I really love him. I know people, are like, well, the Phillies, share saves. They're not sharing saves with with Johan Duran. Like they traded for him for a reason. He's going to be the guy. I think the Phillies are going to be really good. I mean, I love all the top three options, right? Mason Miller, Edwin Diaz, Johan Duran. Love those guys. The guys that I haven't ended up with are David Bednar and Aroldis Chapman. I don't think there's anything wrong with Aroldis Chapman's skill set, but he's old. Let's just be honest. He's old, right? And that is just scary to me to begin with. And so when we're talking about using a pick in like the first 5 rounds, or maybe even the first 4 rounds, I don't know that I want like an ancient closer. Especially on a Boston team stacked with pitching who could just, if he struggles or gets injured, they could just replace him very, very easily. And then the other guy, like I said, is David Bednar. I love David Bednar. He was one of my, top closer targets last year. Of course, that backfired when he got sent down to the minors, and I dropped him and didn't pick him back up when he came back. But for me, it is that being demoted part that really sticks in my brain. That is in the range of outcomes for David Bednar. And I mean, he was in Pittsburgh when that happened. He's in New York now, where they really are trying to win. He's not going to be given a super long leash. If he struggles, they'll move to somebody else. So for me, like, I'm not going to spend the high price on a guy like Bednar. I'm not going to spend the high price on Chapman. I'll wait till the next tier of guys. And like I said, I think they deserve to be in a lower tier than these other ones.
Yeah, fair enough points. I mean, for me, my guy is Andres Munoz that I've been avoiding, and I do have him in one league. But my concern with Munoz is, over the last 3 years, everything's been there for him. But he's had some, the back will speak up and bark at him a little bit. And we saw that in August where things were a little rough for him. But that's the one guy. And plus, he was good, really good. And like, where do you go from there? You have to bake in a little bit of regression just over the things. Like, I don't expect him to go out and pull a Fernando Rodney type of situation, but Munoz was amazing last year, even with the little bit of hiccup he had in the second half. But he's been the one guy. I got one share of him really early, and that's been it. But like last year, he was my guy. He was my Devin Williams last year. I was getting Andres Munoz everywhere last year. So I'm hoping for the same kind of success with that. But that's the one guy that I've been trying to fade in this particular tier, because we know every year something happens to one of these guys. And I'm hoping that I don't have that guy this year.
Yeah. Let's move over to tier 2. And that includes a 6-player tier of Ryan Helsley, Daniel Palencia, Pete Fairbanks, Jeff Hoffman, Ryan Walker, and Rossio Iglesias. Is there a guy that you are targeting a ton here, or guys that you don't want to have anything to do with?
So by the shares column, you can see that I have Helsley and Palencia on one team each. But because of the build approach that I've been taking, I haven't had the other two. But that said, it's like I'm most worried. I don't like Ryan Walker much at all in this, but I haven't tried to get him. But Ryan Walker would be the one guy I would be trying to avoid. But I could say the same thing for Hoffman and Iglesias. Hoffman's got Tyler Rogers, and I know you're thinking, like, especially you as a Giants fan, Submariner and all that. They gave him a 3-year, $45 million contract for a reason. Like, he's an expensive insurance policy. Should Hoffman have problems. And so that's kind of lingering. So, and then with Iglesias, they got Bobby Fastball back there. So they got Robert Suarez. And if Iglesias hits any kind of bumps, that's there. So that's why in this tier, I would be prioritizing Helsley and Palencia, and even Fairbanks, as long as he's with Miami, because they don't have that competition They don't have the competition or the lack of skills. I mean, Ryan Walker's a 2-pitch dude, and he's had his issues. He's the one I like least in this group, but Hoffman and Iglesias have good options behind them, whereas Helsley, Palencia, and Fairbanks do not.
I mean, Ryan Walker doesn't have anybody behind him. I think Ryan Walker maybe has the most stable job in this tier, though probably Fairbanks too. There's no one taking that job from Ryan Walker. The only way he loses it is he's just terrible, right? And that's what happened last year. He was just terrible to start the year. Rebounded in the second half. This looks good so far in spring, So I actually like Ryan Walker as kind of an underrated guy. Honestly, I like a lot of the guys in this tier
Mhm.
as underrated guys. I think Hoffman is underrated. I know they brought in Tyler Rogers, but Tyler Rogers shown he is not a closer. And Hoffman, was fantastic last year. So I think Hoffman is the dude, kind of moving forward. I love Ryan Helsley. We talked a little bit about him earlier. Like I feel like he is forgotten about in terms of, like, this guy has been an elite closer before. He's now going to
Yeah.
Baltimore. It's going to be a really good team. It seems like they're going to give him every opportunity to be the closer. You mentioned Pete Fairbanks. I've never been a big Pete Fairbanks guy because of the health, but the skills are totally fine. And he is in Miami, where there's really not a ton of options to take over that job. So, like, I wouldn't mind leaving anybody or leaving my draft with any of these guys outside of Raciel Iglesias. And that's only because Raciel Iglesias is the most expensive outside of Helsley.
Yeah.
And he's got the best competition. Like, he has a capital C closer setting up for him. He
Yep.
lost his job for a brief moment last year. If that happens this year, it won't be a brief moment. It'll just be Robert Suarez's job. So, like, I'm not spending the money on Raciel Iglesias this year.
Yeah, he's costing us. I mean, in a 15 teamer, he's costing you a seventh rounder, and a 12
Yeah,
team, he's eighth, ninth round.
it's way too high for a guy who has, had ups and downs, and an elite guy who they gave the long-term contract to, right? So, I'm not in on Iglesias. The rest of the guys, love them. Honestly, I think what you may see me do at Tout Wars is get two of these guys as opposed to paying the high price
Mhm.
for the for a guy in the first tier, right? So,
So to transition, as we transition to tier three, a question that came to mind as you were
mhm.
talking about the Iglesias Suarez situation, which one concerns you more, the Iglesias Suarez situation or the McGill Uribe situation in Milwaukee?
Oh, yeah, the Milwaukee situation for me is a no touch, right? Like, if I'm going to take a gamble in the Milwaukee situation, it's definitely with Abner or Uribe,
Which is
you
what
know,
I've done twice.
right? But I am doing everything I can not to mess with, him in tier three. And this is again why this is why I pay for saves, right? I say this all the time because the old moniker, Matthew Berry monikers, don't pay for saves. But one, that's for 10-team mixed leagues. And I don't think as many people play 10-team mixed leagues anymore. And two, um, you pay for saves one way or another. You either pay for them at the draft table or you pay for them in Fab, right?
Mhm.
Or with your pickups. I'd much rather pay for them at the draft table and then not have to worry about spending the time, effort, and money in Fab to go get, the guys who kind of appear off the wire.
Right.
This whole tier is filled with guys I don't want to touch. So why don't we start with you though? Give me a couple of your favorites here, and then a couple guys you were just not touching at all.
Uh, I've kind of left myself open. You can see the ones that I've avoided. Carlos Estevez is the one that scares the absolute crap out of me. All the stuff plus readings this spring have been bad. The velocity readings have been bad. The skills are bad fit for the redesigned park because this is an extreme fly ball pitcher. This one scares the crap out of me. I mean, this is coming off a season where he led all of baseball in saves. This is one I have actively avoided and ran away from. So he is the one name on there that I don't want to, especially at the price. You mentioned the price. I mean, well, he's 106. He's gone as high as 77. That to me, that's like playing with fire, with
Mhm.
gasoline, and seeing what comes out of it. So that's what scares me. I look at some of these other things, and Griffin Jacks. Every week we get closer to the regular season, his value continues to go up, especially with Edwin Uceda still not throwing a baseball. We have three options there, so his value is continuing to go up. In my most recent draft, I ended up on Uribe and Pagan. With Williams, I had taken Williams, and then I took those two. So I have actually no, I didn't take. I took Pagan and Williams and Sterner. So no, I didn't get Uribe in that particular draft. I remember thinking I wanted to give, and I didn't. So I ended up with Pagan. In that because Uribe went pretty high in that one. So that's my You can see where I've taken things. I've taken the chances on Uribe, but they haven't cost me. Like I've been closer to the max pick than the min pick. I haven't really had to go out there and reach to get him.
And that price will be going up, right? Like, because I think a lot of people are starting to go, okay, this is either going to be a shared job or maybe Uribe just has this job to himself. I've stayed away from the Uribe McGill issues. I've stayed away from Josh Hader. Just because
my one share was an early. It was
Yeah.
XFL. I took him in XFL back in the first weekend of November. So the only share I have of him was super early.
I mean, I think Brian Abreu would be the guy in Houston I'd go after, not just because I think he's going to get the most saves, but mostly just because he's cheapest, right? The guys I do like here, I have a lot of Dennis Santana. I think Santana is going to be the guy. And
tell me why.
Because they don't really have anybody else. Like it's and he has kind of the experience to do it. So like it, and he's cheap. This is not like oh, I love the skills or I love the pitcher here. This is like, hey, Pittsburgh's trying to win, and Dennis Santana is kind of the best reliever in that group, right? Mason Miller had an elbow issue last year. Did I say Mason Miller? Justin Lawrence. I don't even know why I said that. You
just gave several people a heart attack.
I freaked everybody out there, so I apologize for that. This is what happens when we record early on a Sunday morning after daylight savings. Sorry, Justin Lawrence had an elbow issue last year. Like I'm not a believer in him. I don't even know what Isaac Mattson is. That's a reliever or congressman for sure.
Oh, I can't wait until you do that episode, by the way.
Oh,
I heard you said you're going to have Welsh and Bogman on.
I gotta text Bogman and Welsh and kind of figure out a time for them. So like there's just really nothing in Pittsburgh, and it's Dennis Santana. So I think
all right, how about this?
Yeah.
How about this as a comp though? So last year, so I would say this, how like on a 1 to 10 scale, with Dennis Santana, with everything you just outlined, which again, I don't disagree with any of it. I just don't like the skills yet. Like on a 1 to 10 scale, how do you feel? What's the possibility of Santana being this year's Carlos Estevez, where he goes out and leads the league in saves? Because Carlos Estevez, his ADP this time last year was 193.
Yeah.
And he was out there for free. People were taking him, and he got 42 saves for people.
I mean, I think that Santana could do something very, very similar. I mean, this is a much better team than it was last year, but it's not good enough where they're going to be blowing people out. The pitching staff is fantastic. Like, I really do like Dennis Santana, not for the skills, but just for the opportunity cost here. And at pick 150, if you're trying to be a little cheaper in your closer area, I think it makes a lot of sense. The other guy that I have grabbed a lot of shares of, currently dealing with a calf issue, is Riley O'Brien. Riley O'Brien, he may share the role with Jojo Romero, and I have grabbed, like I did this in labor, right? I got Riley O'Brien for $1, and then I got Jojo Romero for $1. One of those guys is the closer. Now, they both might be getting saves, and that might be frustrating because I don't think St. Louis is going to be very good. But I think Riley O'Brien is going to be given the opportunity, if healthy, to kind of be the closer there in St. Louis. And like he was quietly like really good last year, a 2.06 ERA, a 23% strikeout rate. Now the walks have been a problem, and the walks can doom a closer, but I think they're going to give him an opportunity at 31 years old to kind of just be the guy in St. Louis. So Riley O'Brien, you can get super cheap. ADP is 258. Like I said, I got him for $1 in AL mixed labor last night. He's a guy I've landed on a ton in this tier. The other one is Kenley Jansen. Like, I know Kenley Jansen is old, and I know they have other options there if he, isn't successful. And this has been a team that has liked to rotate, kind of their closers, but he's also, he's got he's got 476 career saves. They're going to get him 24, right? They're going to get him to 500 career saves. And I don't think that Kenley Jansen would have signed there without some sort of guarantee, like, hey, you're going to be the guy at least to start. So I think, and EJ Hinch has, said like publicly, like he's most likely going to be the guy. So the fact you're getting Kenley Jansen as late as you are, I feel like is kind of a steal as well.
Yeah, he could definitely soak up some. I mean, AJ Hinch has never been terribly loyal to any particular option. And, they've cycled through things as injuries or ineffectiveness have stepped in. After they get Jensen his 4 saves, so he passes Lee Smith, anything's up. I mean, they're also, like you said, with Pittsburgh, Detroit's trying to contend and go further, and they can't allow somebody like, if Jansen wanted to chase 500, he could have stayed with the Angels, because that's the opportunity with Detroit.
He probably should, because
they have all they have all these other options. That's going to be a concern.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily bank on him, with Finnegan and Vest and stuff like that to hold the job the entire way. But I think for the first half, at least, they're going to give him an opportunity to try to get 24 saves. So for me, Clayton Beeter, someone that I've taken like the occasional gamble on, because I do think he's probably the guy in Washington. Sir Anthony Dominguez, probably guy in Chicago for the White Sox.
They're paying him like the guy, and that's the. Yeah. I mean, I took a share of him. It wasn't planned. It was just, oh man, you know what? I kind of need somebody, right?
I don't think he went in late. I don't think he went in labor. If he did, he went late, and I just didn't even notice it. But it's interesting to me to see people take shots on like some of these really wide open situations and then just not touch Sir Anthony Dominguez. Like, the White Sox are not going to be good, but they're not going to be as bad as they've been. So like, I think Sir Anthony Dominguez is actually a pretty reasonable purchase.
He went $1 to Howard Bender.
No, that's actually a really good dollar buy for Howard. So
yes.
All right, let's move over to tier 4. This is the last tier, and it is a doozy of a tier.
A lot of people here.
I'm definitely not going to read off the list. We'll go over a lot of names. Like, who are some of the guys that you're targeting here?
Well, no surprise, Justin Sterner. 6. I have 6 shares of Justin Sterner, and I have been doing this all winter. I got him again in labor. So that's my favorite guy in this tier. And when I mentioned the build in labor where I wanted to get one capital C closer and spec, I was playing in tier 1 and tier 4. That was my strategy. And I ended up getting Sterner. And then we use Urseg. Urseg's buried down here somewhere. But that was the other guy based off everything I said about Carlos Estevez. But Justin Sterner is easily my favorite reliever in this tier. And he doesn't have, and they still haven't named a full-time person for the Athletics, but he's easily my favorite guy here.
Yeah, Sterner was a guy that I kind of wish I had taken a shot on in labor mix, like in the reserves or for $1. I ended up going different directions with my kind of closer specs for $1. Like, I got Robert Garcia's in this tier. I got Kirby Yates. Actually, all 3 guys who lead off this tier are on my labor team that I got for either $1 or I got in the reserves. I got Kirby Yates, Robert Garcia, and Taylor Rogers. I think all 3 of those guys have a really good chance of leading their team in saves. The problem is they all have a guy who's right behind them that could also just take the job. Like, I don't think that, but I think all 3 of those guys will at least be given the opportunity to start the season. I already mentioned Jojo Romero. He could factor into saves in St. Louis, especially with Riley O'Brien dealing with a calf issue right now. I don't want to draft a Rockies closer. So, like, I know Victor Vodnik has the job or should have the job in Colorado, but I just don't care.
But if you're an NL only person, you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. You have to. And because you got the situation in Washington, you got the situation in Arizona, you got the situation in St. Louis, you have the situation in Colorado. It's like there's 4 right off the top bat in a 12-team NL only. Somebody's going to have to take those situations.
Yeah,
and it's not going to cost you much. And there may be, you may hit with one of them, but there's 4 situations that you got to navigate.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing one.
Well, there's the Arizona Diamondback situation,
Yeah.
which is an absolute nightmare. Now, I've been drafting Paul Sewald just because he has the quote unquote closer experience. But I Sewald hasn't even looked very good in spring so far. Kevin Ginkel hasn't looked very good in spring so far. I just cannot believe that a team like this did not address the bullpen in free agency. It just seems
I don't get it either.
like absolutely criminal that a team that is this good from top to bottom is so bad in the bullpen. So I have, like I said, I've been going for Paul Sewald because he has the quote unquote experience as the guy, but
Which is a real thing. Managers care
it
about
is.
that.
It like we definitely like to say like, hey, bet on skills. If you're questioning anything, you bet on the guy with the better skills. That is not true for the closer game, right? Like skills are not necessarily, because often what we see is the guys with the better skills get put in the seventh, eighth, or used as firemen, right? Like they're
Yep.
going to go in when it's most advantageous to the team, not when it's most advantageous to our fantasy team. So, this is kind of a crapshoot and dart throw, and we don't really know which guy is going to kind of come out of the Arizona situation. The other situation, I already kind of alluded to it a little bit ago, is that Angels situation. It could be Robert Stevenson if he's healthy. It could be Kirby Yates, it could be Drew Pomeranz. It could be a guy we aren't even really considering at this point. I think it's going to be Kirby Yates to start the year, but I could definitely see a number of different avenues where, Jordan Romano, the former Capital C closer, is on this roster. Ben Joyce is coming back from a labrum surgery from last May. Like, there's a lot of guys who could end up taking this role. I do think it's going to be Kirby Yates to start, especially with, I don't know if Stevenson's going to be ready to start the year, but I know you've been a big Stevenson guy in the past. Are you going back to the well on Stevenson?
I've only been. He was fun when he was with Tampa Bay, and he was able to propel that into a 3-year deal for $33 million that has averaged out to about $10 million a pitch thrown with him with the Angels. So, I mean, I loved him back then, and he's a good example of guys that were like showing off the skills that could do something, and then the opportunity. He didn't melt because everything else was hurt. He just melted because he didn't fail skills. He melted because of the opportunity. But it's like, one name you did mention there, and I was trying to think like he could be that type of guy, like Ryan Zefferjon. He's got great stuff. But like I said, we've got on roster resource, there are 4 guys listed as closer, and Zefferjon is not even one of those. And if you watch him pitch, you could argue he's probably got the nastiest stuff. He may not know exactly where it's going, but he may have the nastiest stuff of all those guys. So there's another one. So as somebody who had to navigate one AL auction, has another one coming up. I'm glad that like this is the only situation that there's not 4 of these like there are in the NL. But this one's going to be weird because you figure on, I forget what the exact number is. I think there's basically 40, maybe it's like 45% of wins are saved type of thing. So let's say the Angels win 75 games. Let's say that's 30, 32, 33 saves that have to come out of this bullpen somewhere. It's like, how do you allocate those particular saves right now? Because I don't feel comfortable giving double digits to any of these guys, but somebody is probably going to be that guy this year.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's the thing. This is why I tend to stay away from these muddy situations, right? This is why I'm staying away from the Milwaukee situation. But at least Milwaukee, like, they could win 92 games, right? Like, they could win a boatload of games. And so if you're getting that 45%, it's pretty awesome. And even if it's split, like, you're still getting a fair amount of saves, right? When you get into the bad teams, right? The Athletics, the Angels, who's another? The Twins are going to be a bad team this year, right? And those are all kind of, if there is a committee, now you're getting 45% of a bad team split between 2 or 3 guys. that's not really worth chasing most of the part. Now, if you're getting for $1 at the end of the auction, fine. If you're getting them after like the the 20th round in a 15 team mixed league, fine. Like you take the gamble. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, you can drop and move on. But like if you're leaving a draft like I did in my labor draft because it was a Labadini plan with like all of your saves are coming from those guys, you're setting yourself up for a lot of pain in season.
Right.
And I know I'm in a lot of pain in season because in labor, but that was by design, right? I was trying to do a Labadini. So ultimately, like, I'll figure it out in season because I always knew I was going to. But if you're just entering with a regular strategy, you should not be waiting for these kind of situations to go get your guy. You should have one guy at the top, like Jason has done in drafts, and then go dip it in these pools.
Right.
All right. Any closing thoughts on saves?
Like I said, have a plan. I don't know if you're going to avoid the capital C closers, then like this weekend is probably the last weekend to be able to do that in standard things, because when you get into your home leagues, there's like one of my home leagues is all about like no closers going below $25. It just doesn't happen. And so like, thankfully I have Justin Sterner for $1 in that league because I watched him pitch last year and was like, okay, I'm specking on this one. But Justin Sterner, if he were in that auction and had the job, because we draft that one opening weekend because of the old school rules, he goes $25. So it's like, this is what your last weekend, this week coming up, this is your last week to enjoy profits on some of these guys, because some of these jobs are going to go away. So if you're planning on like, oh, there's plenty of opportunity, understand by the time you get to your draft, there's going to be less opportunities out there for you to take advantage of. So come up with a plan, figure out which guy you like, which guy you don't like, but also come up with multiple names. So you, like I said, in the AL labor, I had multiple names slotted for a $24 closer spot that I was trying to, and if the first one comes up, don't rank them in the order you like them, rank them around that value. If you're doing an auction, that way you can do that. But then, snake draft's different animal. If you're picking on the turn, it is what it is. And you may have to reach for a guy because you can look at it and say, okay, there's no way that guy's making it back. And so that's where you get kind of crazy, but come up with a plan. Otherwise, I hate punting it because like, I know you're the same way. You just don't want to have to allocate so much of your free agent budget trying to chase these save situations, because you can take these guys now in reserves. And then if they don't get it, you mentioned one league where you took Romero and O'Brien earlier. I have a league where I took Jax and Baker. And if Baker doesn't get the job and Jax gets it, I cut Baker. But, Baker's costed me $0. It was a reserve pick. But if they somehow come out and say, you know what, Jax is going to be our 7-8 guy and we're giving the ball to Baker in the 9th, Baker's going to run a triple-digit fab number opening weekend. So I'm trying to avoid that situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. Definitely have a plan. Like, it's just, I think a lot of people are like, well, I'll just take saves where I'm going to take them. And, it just rarely works out this way. And what we're seeing in a lot of these early drafts are people are really pushing closers up, right? You can fall victim to runs. It happened to Eno in the Barf League where like all of a sudden, all of a sudden he's like, oh no, what do I do now? Like, you just don't want to be putting yourself in a situation where you're freaking out for the second half of your draft because you didn't address closer later. So I am a big proponent, like I said, of getting those saves early, locking in a guy that you feel really, really confident about. All right, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Jason, remind everybody where you can be reached on social media, plug anything you got going on.
Yeah, find me on Blue Sky, Jason Collette. Collette calls at RotoWire. The labor recap is free, no subscription required. Go read that. I am writing something up about spring steals. We've talked about the correlation at the league level and at the team level. The player level doesn't work as much, but the this spring, and maybe it's a side effect of the World Baseball Classic roster machinations and all that, but the league is running a lot this spring, a lot. Like I went back and looked at 2023 attempts per contest, and it was 2.33, and that was with the new rules and the NFBC in play. This spring, it's 2.77. There are teams out there just like running track beats, and if that's and the research previously shows that the overall spring training rate has a correlation of 0.82, which is strong. And so if the league is doing this now, very curious to see what happens in the regular season with this, because it is typically, rarely have we seen it dive even more than just a little bit. So even if it goes from 2.7 to 2.5, 2.5 would still be higher than anything else during the regular season. So it's typically been about a 15 to 18% drop in those attempts per contest from spring training to regular season. But I'm watching this because this is really high. It's kind of like the home on the fly ball. You track that early to get a good indication of what's happening. But right now in spring, people have their running shoes on.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on all social media platforms, Justin Mason FWFB. And then you can read all my written work at Fangraphs and Fantasy Pros, where I'm going to be writing nonstop here for the rest of the month. And then you can hear me on this podcast and the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast. That will do it for us for this episode. Remember, no episode next week on Sunday because Jason and I will be in Tout Wars. Tout Wars will be running live streams of all the auctions.
And I'm doing one of them.
Yeah, Jason's going to be doing the points league. He's going to be kind of commenting on it and following it along live in the room. I will be covering both the AL and the NL versions of that. I know Jason will be in AL and I will be in the mixed auction. Eric Haltman will be covering the mixed auction while I actually draft. So there we go. We will see you guys in 2 weeks. For Jason myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.
Thanks, guys.